Hey guys, before we start, I just want to let you know that my films, the last ones, a zombie drama, and Borderland about the cartels, are now out on Tubi. That's Tubi.com or Tubi the app. The movies are free as long as you sign in. I don't even think you have to sign in. I think you just need the app. You probably already have it if you have like a smart TV or PlayStation 5, which all the cool kids got for Christmas. If you don't have one, you're not cool. Um, yeah, go check it out. It would be really helpful. Both of them are kind of fun movies. Borderland is definitely more fun. The last one's is more of a drama, but they're both good.
It's
And
it's the 2016 Borderland, not the 2009 Borderland.
it's a 2016 Borderland. It's not the 2009 Borderland or the 1974 Borderland or the 1992 Borderland or the 1997 Borderlands or the 2004 Borderland or the 2014 Borderlands Wars. So yeah, find it. It's a needle in the haystack, guys. But you know what they say about those? They're always worth your time. Yeah, go check them out, and we'll see you. And let's start the show. I was gonna say we'll see you next time, but I shouldn't say that. And let's start the show. Welcome to the Bomb Squad. Welcome to the Bomb Squad, where
Why'd
we're
you
the
say it
bomb.
like that?
And we have another Texas chainsaw. It would be fun if I just had more and more.
We're gonna go back over all of them and just
We're gonna
revisit.
re-examine them from as if we never saw them before. No, welcome to the Bomb Squad. We're finally out. We're out of guests. We're out of Texas Chainsaw Massacres, and we're just living
We've
free.
left
So
Texas.
so we decided to we've done horror for so long that we're gonna take a break. We're recording this in November. I just watched 40 days of horror films, so we're gonna move a little bit away from horror for a few
Well,
eps. And
climate
this is
change is the real horror, so we're technically still in that genre.
that's right. Today we're reviewing the 2013 movie The East. The East is directed by Zal Batija, who
It's
is
Bet Manglish because
Zal
Batman's in his name. That's how I remember it.
Zal.
You were like you almost started calling him Dave Bautista halfway
I
through.
know. I was gonna. I knew it couldn't be Dave Bautista because he wasn't talking shit about things for no reason. Um, and it stars and was written by Brit Marling. It also has Elliot Page, Toby Cabell, and Alexander Skarsgard. And Josh, instead of interrupting and being a jackass, why don't you tell us what the movie's about?
A woman. It's about a woman. A woman makes some bad choices. She goes undercover to infiltrate an eco-terrorist group, but she finds out that, oh, actually, corporations are bad. Maybe these
Actually,
guys
the
have a
government
point.
the government is bad? Question mark. Yes, this is a story of Omar versus AOC and which socialist problem will win. Yeah. So I first of all I picked this movie for two reasons. The first reason is I think that Britt Marling is one of the best writers that we have right now. She's underused and underknown. She did Sound of My Voice. She did Another Earth. She did The East, which is probably her biggest film. And then most people know her from the OA, which one day I'll finish. Hopefully, who knows? But yeah, I think she's very strong in writing. She knows how to make these big stories or stories that should be big and make them into small stories. And I think that that's very impressive. And The East is her most accessible film, so I was like, let's let's do this. Let's figure it out. So yeah, so Josh, what did you think of The East?
Well, okay, it's good. I mean, I feel like because it was made in 2013, it comes to some very 2013 conclusions about like the quote unquote right way to do things at the
Yeah,
end.
it
But
definitely watching it again, I was like, Obama was president during this time. I could tell. I could feel
pe-
him. I could
people
feel his
people
centralist ways in this
people
film.
thought that you could just be like, if we just talk to people, they'll
We just
agree
gotta
with us.
fight the right fight, yeah.
Find the common
So
cause.
essentially, the movie is about Britt Marley plays a undercover agent who's working for some kind of like corporation, like a black, like the the black market mercenaries, pretty much, who protect corporations.
Blackwater, yeah.
We need someone to get inside the East.
Who would you choose?
Me. I'm unexpected. Being unexpected is the only advantage that matters.
So yeah, so she infiltrates this group called the East, and they're eco terrorist group, or as we like to call them, the right type of people. And so she's just trying to figure out what they're doing, and they target corporations who pollute the earth, and they do things to them. And so yeah, it's a very interesting film. It's really playing with who's right and who's wrong, and who really deserves to pay for the crimes that corporations are unleashing against all of us. Because the fact is that it's one of us. It's either the corporations or the people. So who's right? Who's in the right? And what is their what should their punishment be? Alexander Skarsgard plays the leader, and Elliot Page plays like the second in command. Toby Cabell plays another guy, like the doctor, and then there's a couple of other people, but they're not as important. But yeah, Josh, let's see. What are your thoughts about this film?
I think it's pretty interesting because I think most people would go in on the side of like, oh yeah, like the environmental activists are in the right, but they actually do in a good way. It takes a while because it does really seem like a cult at the beginning, so you're actually kind of more on her side of like these people are fucking crazy, and they do a lot of like kind of crazy like ritualistic things.
Yeah, because they're like they live on the outskirts of society, and
they do like they're like,
they like
oh,
eat trash out of
we
principle.
eat.
Like, because and they, at one point, Patricia Clarkson, she plays like the leader of the security firm, and at one point she's like, "Why do they eat out of the garbage? Why don't they just cook their own food?" And Brit Marling's like, "Oh, because it's a message that we're wasting food. Like they're eating this food,
Or it's like
that
perfectly
comes
good
from the
food.
garbage, but it's perfectly good food." Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like, yeah, it's like some of the stuff they do is performative, but it's a performative to a point. And a lot of the stuff they do is performative, but it's like, yeah, but we have to make a performance of these things to show how bad it is. Like the first thing they do that gets them noticed is that they break into, and it's a great opening.
It's easy when it's not your home, easy when it's not your life, the place where you sleep, your kids, your wife. But when it's your fault, it shouldn't be so easy to sleep at night, especially when we know where you live.
And it's just like a real good opening because you immediately know A, what the crime of the corporation is, and B, like how bad it's going to be. So I think that was a really good opening.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like their whole thing is always like, oh, we're like all they're doing is just turning the company's products like back on them essentially, and it's
Yeah.
like that is actually like a smart way of doing it. Although it's kind of funny because the group does argue, and it is one of those things where you do agree with where one of the members like later on is like, look, this intellectual bullshit doesn't work. Like it's clever, but you just have to make people angry enough to take action. And it's like that is like it's
Yeah.
like a weirdly good point. It's like the movie argues against itself like pretty intelligently in like a way. It's neat.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very well made
definitely-
movie.
Yeah, Britt Marling is definitely not giving you any answers. She's like making you think about what the choices are
Right.
and which way you want to lean, which is interesting, and what you kind of have to do in a movie like this because there is really no answers to how we fix this problem.
Yeah, it's almost unsolvable if you actually like truly like think about it, you know. But
Right. Yeah, and I think like, oh, so then she gets to the group, and like she does a lot of stuff that I do like. Okay, so at one point she's like looking for the East, and then she thinks it's this one guy, and because the like intelligence is like, oh, go find this guy, and then she finds him, and then she like they all get caught by the cops, and then she quickly finds out that the guy is an undercover cop, and I was like, oh yeah,
that is
the cops.
yeah,
sending
so
them-
true.
Yeah, sending each other after each other is the most realistic part.
Yeah.
But eventually she catches herself with the East because of that situation, and so yeah, the group is really treated like you don't know what their intentions are or what their motives are for a little bit, and I think that that's interesting. You really like Alexander Skarsgard. He plays the leader whose name is I forgot. Oh, his name's Benji. Good for you, Brit Marling, for making a character intimidating and naming him Benji. That's a challenge. And you don't really know what his intentions are. Even by the end, you kind of feel that he's
Well, and I actually, because they actually kind of show, like, she finds out that he's actually like a rich kid, and
well, they all
um,
are, which is interesting. We can
yeah,
talk
I
about
think I don't know if because like they meet a couple, like the doctor I don't think is, and there's a couple that aren't, but most of the main ones are like just like rich kids getting
You think that the
revenge.
doctor who was able to take 2 years off and went to Harvard wasn't a rich kid, is what you're saying?
No,
Even though you see his friend who's like the richest guy
oh,
in
I'm
the whole
not thinking
world?
of the doctor, the street kid she meets on the train.
Oh yeah, Luca. Yeah, I don't know about Luca. He
There's a
does.
couple of them where you don't really know, and you get the
I
sense
there's
that
a Shiloh Fernandez. He plays like one of the group members. He's not that important, but he does look like the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, and it was very distracting because I was like, "Oh, this guy's the star of the movie because he looks like My Chemical Romance."
that was
Um,
when they first, because when she's trying to infiltrate the East, she's basically just kind of living the like gutter punk kid life of like riding the rails and stuff and like hanging out with them. And I was like, man, I remember back when I like idolized this type of life, but then I realized you do laundry like once a month. It's just like, oh,
yeah, you smell all the
it's just,
time.
yeah, it's like you just have to get used to the fact that you feel dirty
Well,
like
and like
99% of the time.
again, like there's so much intelligence built into this film where one of the ways when she infiltrates the group, one of the main things that has people questioning her loyalty is that she smells like soap.
Right, yeah,
And
that
it's
she
like
clearly just started doing this.
exactly like if you live like this. No, she's her excuse is that she broke into a hotel, but like that's like a good, like you would think like, why do you smell so nice if you're like this, if you're this transient like us?
Yeah, it's like
And I
stuff
think,
you wouldn't even think about until you're like in that life. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's why I like Brit Marling because, like a lot sci-fi writers, you can definitely tell that she has thought about so much of the life of the undercover agent and also the East, like the group itself.
I mean, there's this cool part where like I appreciated where because first they test her, like they call the contact that's mom, and it turns out to just be her handler, like pretending
Oh
to be her
yeah,
mom, and they
and it's
break her
so good that
phone.
the handler has like a bunch of phones in front of her that just has the name of the undercover agent. So if anyone calls, it's like, oh yeah, we're here to.
Yeah, she's like, Sarah, it's mom. Like, I'm missing you, you know? Yeah, and it's like, that's such a good sequence. But then later you find out she has a false heel in her shoe with a second phone. I was like, damn, this is
Yeah,
some
to
cool secret agent stuff.
oh see, to me the false heel was one step too far for me.
Oh,
Like
really? I like that, yeah.
you're walking on a Blueberry phone. I don't think so, guys. It's broken.
What was it a little bit burn notice? Yes, but I appreciate when
Yeah,
things are a
especially
bit
for
burn notice.
yeah, for a film that's so like realistic and down to earth. It's like, oh, and by the way, I just have a phone in my pocket.
Well, you know what I like too, and I will say, like, Britt Marling does a good job of taking things that are silly inherently and treating them deadly serious and like kind of winning you over. Like, I think some people disagree with me, but in the OA season one, they do that with interpretive dance, and I was like, no, I'm like
Right.
with it. I like believe like this is like super important, as like ridiculous as this should be. But
Yeah.
this movie does go a little too far in some cases, like the straitjacket dinner where they all have to feed each other. That's like, oh man, if you walked in on that, you'd be like, all right, this is some cult bullshit, you
Yeah,
know?
it's like, all right, I'm out, guys.
But she does treat it that way too. Like, even like her character's even like, all right, this is ridiculous, you
She's
know,
like,
and has to kind of be like won back over.
you better call me the West because I'm leaving. That was an A+ joke, guys. But yeah, I think, and I think that is one of her strengths is that she has this ability to make these things that should be inherently silly and turn them into like, and like just have so much faith in the idea that that you end up like buying it even though it's a little bit ridiculous. So yeah, I think that that's a good idea. And yeah, so she infiltrates the group and then she goes with them.
They use the
It's
chemical.
it's the drug. It's the drug that they put in the champagne.
They spike the champagne with it at the doctor's friend's party, who's played by
Yeah.
Billy Magnuson, and his character's name is Porty McCabe, which struck me as the fakest name you could
His
ever
character's
say.
name is Scrooge McDuckington.
And I feel like that guy is typecast as a white affluent rapist
Yeah.
because he's played that like 5 different times.
It's like he even played that in fucking Aladdin, which doesn't even make sense. But yeah, I mean he does a good job. It's a
Yeah,
good
no,
movie.
he's good as that, but it's like he has to feel a little bit pigeonholed at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, so they like give him the water, and it's just like it's interesting. Again, like you have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit because like immediately after they get drugged, they have like a press conference, and the spokesperson is like, "See, we're fine. I love taking our own medicine." And then like a week later, she can't even walk, which is like I believe that these drugs have terrible side effects. I don't believe that she would hold another press conference
Yeah,
and
that
that the
she would be like,
company would
I
let
was
her have
wrong.
one.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I think too, like a lot of times it's like if you, because they make a point to be like, oh, we gave them the normal dose or something. And it's
Yeah.
like, if the normal dose actually just like that's one of those things where it's like, no, you'd have to take way too much, and then it would be like one of the 30 things it could do to you, might happen. So,
But I think it's very realistic. Like some drugs do have the side effects of this, and I think it's important to note, especially in this time in Corona time, that their point that Brit and Marling is making is not that these drugs are inherently bad. It's that they're underplaying some of their side
like
effects
the risk of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
And
did think, speaking of being in the Corona time, that I was like, oh man, half the members of this like group, the East, would be anti-vax for
I know,
sure.
right?
Which is, it's a different time.
Benji 100% is not taking that vax. But yeah, I think it's an interesting, and of course you need to move the story along, so we can't just have her.
Yeah, it works.
You know who else?
It's well intentioned and it works well.
You know who else I really liked? I like the hacker girl. She only has like 2 scenes, but
Oh
she's so
yeah,
good in them.
she's the girl from Patty Cake. She's a really good actress, actually.
Yeah, and she does. She's like, they want to hack me, but it's like chicken scratch to me, and I was like, yeah, that's how every fucking computer engineer talks. They're all fucking nerds.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. It's hard to describe this movie because essentially the plot is pretty straightforward. It's more the themes and also all the work that they put into it that makes it impressive. But it is worth watching. I think so she as she's going along with the group, she's kind of falling in love with the idea that they have of we're just giving these corporations their own medicine back to them. If what they're doing is safe, then they shouldn't have a problem with it. And it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so the next group they go is the Flint, Michigan one, and it turns out that it's Izzy's dad who runs it. And so I do wonder what she's trying to say, because the main 3 characters are all coming from rich families.
Well, that's
and it's
realistic, to be honest. Like a lot of full-time activists, it's like, well, you started doing this because you could afford to not work for several years,
Yeah, like Hassan Piker.
It's very true to life, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's like you've made $2 million, but you're also doing good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a contentious debate on what's actually doing good and what's just performative, but
yeah, I do think that's interesting. They're clearly making a message and they're putting their lives on the line, but at the same time, they're able to do it because of their privilege. And I guess it's asking you if their privilege is if they're actually paying with their, or they're actually using their privilege, or are they just cosplaying as activists? And I think that's interesting. And it's never really settled. Again, she doesn't give you a lot of easy answers. Yeah, no, I think that just the idea that the fact that she brings up all these in a feature film about this essentially an undercover cop story is interesting. It's what makes her stand out, and I'm always excited. I wasn't the hugest fan of the.
I would almost want her to do a sequel to this.
I like the first. Yeah, no, I don't ever want sequels anymore. But I am curious every time she has a new project. I watched her from Sound of My Voice, which we'll eventually cover, and this was her next project, and it was a little bit awesome. So yeah, check out Brit Marling. She's done. Even check out the OA. I say it's not my favorite, but that's just
I never
because I
saw
have.
season 2, but I actually thought season 1 was quite good. It
Yeah,
was
I
just one
liked
of
it. I just think like I had such high expectations for her, and this was like her big. Oh, she's on Netflix now. That I had wanted it to be a little bit different, but I still like the idea. I just haven't gotten into part two because part it came out like 2 years later, and I
I
didn't
know
want to.
it's like part 1's so dense. You're like, who are the characters again? I'm gonna have to like study this
And
to
once
yeah.
again, she named the character Homer. Challenge, always challenging yourself, Brit Marley. And Brit Marley, if you're listening to this and you want to make a movie, I'm 100% down. Whatever you want to write. Um, but yeah, no, I think this is a good movie. I haven't seen anyone really talk about any of Brit Marling's work when in the in a critical sense. So that's why I really wanted to do this movie. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys seek her work out. And I hope you guys seek my workout because I'm also a starving artist and I don't have Netflix deals. But yeah, East, you were good. Elliot Page, you are great at acting. Brit Marling, you're a good writer. Skarsgard, take off that shirt. I spun the bottle on you. So next week we're gonna be talking Copland with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh man, what a good
It's
movie.
We're continuing our "fuck you government" month.
I don't know why,
Um,
but during the spin the bottle scene in this movie, I just kept imagining like Quentin Tarantino's there and everyone's like, no, we're not all taking off our shoes. Stop asking us.
He's like not even he's directing the movie. He's not even part of it. He's like, oh, I forgot what we were doing for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks guys. Welcome back to the Bomb Squad. We're back and we're fresher than ever. Hopefully
We're
this
eco terrorists now. That's
yeah,
the new
we're
thing.
the eco terrorists. We're gonna go protest. We're gonna go put on pink hats and protest. All right, we'll see you guys later. Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience.